Hello, everybody, and how do you do? Today we have a question that deals with a broader... It's part of a bigger question that was asked, and I felt like this is a good one to address, because though I may not have the answer for it, I have an idea on how to address it. Because it actually isn't just a question about acting, it sort of inadvertently applies to a lot of different things. So this is in discussion of acting studios and whether actors, should, choose one over the other. Or do they really contribute value? Or is it just another, like if you have an LA acting studio on your portfolio, is it just like another check mark for credits? How is that regarded? And then which one's really the best? And the question was phrased, some studios are better than others, but no professional is going to publicly advise an actor on which ones are the best. There are top 10 lists on Backstage and other online forums, but does an actor just have to jump around and try out the studios to find a good match? And okay, so basically, if you read the subtext of the question here, it's essentially saying, what's the best acting school or acting studio, I should say? And then, is there even really? Well, I guess that's really the question. And for me, I say that applies to a broader kind of across the industry a little bit, because people also ask what's the best camera or what's the best editing platform, or probably what's the best university to study anything. And the acting studios, I think, are a bit different in one sense, but they're the same in others. On one hand, like, you of course need to know that you just for your own sake, like being a professional, having knowledge about your craft is helpful, right? So going to some sort of a school to learn the fundamentals of theater and film, or acting beyond, before like doing a workshop, is not an awful thing. Now, it's not required by any means. I'm not one of those people who thinks film school is an absolute must, or anything. I mean, I didn't go to film school, so there are other ways you can learn, but you have to learn. Like, you have to give yourself what film school would have given you. And if you're not going to Juilliard to study acting, then you need to give yourself the tools that you would have in your head after graduating from a university that would have a theater program or some like arts program like that. So then when it comes to the studio scene, and that's just to give you a foundation of your business that you're in, of your craft, right? It's not saying you are then going to become some sort of a template. Like, some artists think, well, if they study others, they're going to become too much like the others, and then they're going to use their voice. Learning a technique and being unique are they should be separate, and you should also be aware that you can fall victim to becoming a cookie cutter by just doing, monkey see, monkey do. But I think the real successful artists and so forth study multiple techniques, and they study under multiple coaches for various things, for different circumstances, and to all constantly be expanding their horizon and practicing the craft. I think just like a young cinematographer should constantly be running around with a camera in his or her hand, trying to focus on things, trying to understand the exposure triangle and just get better so it becomes sort of second nature. You know how it is. You don't go run for like 2 months, or you don't go work out for a few months. It's really sort of like hard to get back into it. Not just physically, but like mentally. The rust sort of starts coming, piling on a little bit. So all that I would say here is that I think if you really are somebody who is hungry to become the best in acting and in the entertainment industry, then like knowing more is never going to hurt you. So certainly not phrasing it necessarily in a way where, I think the question is flawed. So like saying, do we just bounce around until we find something? Well, no, I think you should be in search for knowledge, and I think you should bounce around or try or sample and what they call audit different acting studios so that you can find a home that you're comfortable in. And then when you graduate from that home, you shouldn't be afraid to move on into a new realm. Maybe Meisner is better for you, or Stanislavski, or sort of that direction, or Chekhov, or whatever it is. And if you don't know the differences, because I certainly don't know the deep differences, I've sat in and I've done some basic superficial homework on this and just through conversation. But there's a lot to explore. So the more you know, the more tools you'll have in your arsenal. The more you can sort of customize something for yourself and then make all of the different techniques and coaches work for you in your ecosystem to benefit you, because ultimately you should be on a trajectory somewhere, right? Like, you're the driver of your path, of your car, and your agent and manager and acting coaches and friends and all that stuff, like a network that, they all sort of support that but you're still the driver, right? So when you need to evolve, or when you need to change a pace, or when you feel like you're not getting something out of something, move on. Don't be afraid to experiment. Get all the value that you can out of something and then move on. Or stay. I'm sure I've spoken to a lot of established actors. They don't seem to be 100%, loyal to a single acting coach. And I think it should be okay also for coaches that sort of people might consult with one acting coach for a certain approach, or maybe get their one-on-one education from somebody else, but they have sort of a workshop that they like to go to, a master class, a scene study, and so they like that coach more for that environment. So who knows? And others might just be, one coach people. But you're you. And that's what I'm trying to say. Cinematographers, actors, anybody doing their thing, uniqueness, right? Individuality, right? Artistry. That's kind of what's going to give you more value. Make everything else work as tools for you. Don't look at them as obligations and having to go to class and having to, all that stuff. You should be sucking that stuff in, as much of it as you can, from as many angles as you can. And you'll just, through all this, touching all these different spaces, be able to craft and create and build yourself up into a richer artist. So I hope that helps. I know it's not a straight answer, but I think the question was flawed. How can you become the best? Make it all work for you. All right.